Imagine being a clam in prehistory. You spend your whole life building armor. That armor is your house, your shield, your security system, your entire survival plan. Then one day a Neanderthal walks into the sea, holds his breath, dives down, grabs you from the seafloor, brings you back to shore, eats the soft part, and then uses your house as a knife. That was the ocean's first big mistake. It thought body parts had one purpose. Humans disagreed. That is what this story is really about. Not prehistoric humans ate seafood. That is the boring version. The real version is that prehistoric humans looked at ocean creatures and gave them second jobs. A clam became lunch, then a blade. A sea snail became jewellery. An abalone became a paint bowl. A shark tooth became a cutting tool. A tuna became a bravery test. A seal became a lesson in bad timing. And a dead whale, if the ocean threw one onto the beach, became a whole smelly warehouse. No creature signed up for this. Humans just started assigning roles. To a modern person, the beach is a place for holidays. You go there to relax, take photos, maybe collect one pretty shell, and act like you are suddenly connected to nature. To prehistoric humans, the beach was not relaxing. It was a dangerous shopping mall where the floor was slippery, the shelves were alive, the opening hours depended on the moon, and half the products could bite, sting, rot, drown, or infect you. Still, humans kept going back, because the ocean had things no forest could offer. It had shells already shaped like tools. It had teeth sharper than anything a human hand could grow. It had bones, oil, fat, colour, shine, danger, and status. The coastline was not just where land met water. It was where humans learned one of their most powerful habits. Nothing has to stay what it is. Start with the simplest victim, shellfish. A deer sees you and runs. A bird sees you and flies. A fish sees you and disappears into water. A mussel sees you and continues being glued to a rock like it has made peace with fate. That is why shellfish were so useful. You did not need to be the strongest hunter in the group. You did not need heroic music. You did not need to sprint across a valley and return with a dramatic story. You just needed to understand the tide. The moon moves, the water pulls back, the rocks appear, the shellfish are exposed, and suddenly dinner is sitting there like the ocean forgot to close the fridge. That sounds simple, but it is not stupid. It is pattern reading. Early coastal humans learned that the sea had a schedule. Food came and went with the water. A land hunter could spend hours chasing animals and come back empty-handed. A coastal human could look at the tide and say, "Give it a minute." The ocean is setting the table. This is the first thing ocean creatures taught humans. Survival is not always about chasing. Sometimes it is about waiting at the right place at the right time. But humans are not normal animals. A normal animal eats and leaves. A human eats, stares at the leftovers, turns them around, taps them, scrapes something with them, and thinks, "Hold on, this trash still works." That is where the story changes. At Grotta dei Moscerini in Italy, Neanderthals used marine shells as tools. The wild part is that some of those shells were probably collected alive from the seafloor. So picture the scene properly. A Neanderthal walks into cold coastal water with no goggles, no oxygen tank, no towel, no beach playlist, and no reason to look graceful. He dives down, grabs a living shellfish, comes back up, and later turns that shell into a cutting tool. That is not dumb caveman behaviour. That is underwater shoplifting. The shellfish made armour to protect itself. The Neanderthal saw a free blade. That is the human relationship with nature in one sentence. Your defence system becomes our equipment. And once humans started thinking that way, the beach stopped being only a food place. It became a workshop. A sharp shell could cut. A strong shell could scrape. A hollow shell could hold something. A pretty shell could say something about the person wearing it. Every creature had more than one possible future, and humans were very good at finding the second one. This is where Blombos Cave in South Africa enters the story. Around 100,000 years ago, humans there were grinding ochre and storing the mixture inside abalone shells. Before pottery, before proper bowls, before paint tubes, before someone had a drawer full of containers they refused to throw away, humans were already using shells as mixing bowls. An abalone shell is almost too perfect. Hard outside, shiny inside, curved like nature accidentally made designer kitchenware. A prehistoric person saw it and thought, yes, put the red stuff in there. That red ochre may have been used for body paint, hide treatment, decoration, ritual, or something practical we still argue about. But the exact use is not the only important part. The important part is that an ocean creature was now helping humans make colour. Not just food, not just tools. Colour, and colour means something. Colour can mark identity. It can change appearance. It can signal belonging. It can make a person, object or place feel important. So the ocean was not only feeding bodies anymore, it was entering human culture. Then humans did the most human thing possible. They started wearing the ocean. At Blombos, tiny marine shells were used as beads tens of thousands of years ago. These were selected, pierced, rubbed, and probably strung together. Somebody picked up a small sea snail shell and thought, this has outfit potential. That is funny, but also serious. Because in a world with no passports, no flags, no uniforms, no written names, and definitely no Instagram bio, objects had to speak for people. A shell bead could say, I belong to this group. It could say, I come from the coast. It could say, I have access to rare things. Or maybe it simply said, I survived predators, hunger, infection and cold nights, and I still found time to accessorize. Respect. A dead sea snail became prehistoric branding. No Wi-Fi. Still people judging each other. So the ocean gave humans food, then tools, then colour, then status. And this is why the story has to stay bigger than seafood. The coast was teaching humans that an animal body was not just meat. It could become technology. It could become identity. It could become a message. Now move from slow creatures to fast ones. Tuna. Tuna are not beginner fish. They are fast, strong, shiny, and built like silver torpedoes with attitude. You do not catch tuna by standing near the water and believing in yourself. At Jerimalai Cave in East Timor, archaeologists found evidence that humans were catching open water fish around 42,000 years ago, including tuna-type fish. That means people were not only picking up easy food, they were going into deeper, riskier water where humans had every disadvantage. A tuna swims better than you. The ocean moves better than you. The current does not care about your family. One bad wave, one broken raft, one wrong direction, and the fishing trip becomes a ghost story. So those fish bones are not just leftovers. They are proof of courage, planning. Humans had to learn when fish moved, where to go, how far was too far, and how to come back. Catching the fish was impressive. Returning was the real miracle. This is another lesson ocean creatures gave humans. Risk becomes worth it when the reward is big enough. Then humans made the fish's life even worse. They made hooks. A fish hook is basically a scam in object form. It says to the fish, free snack. Then the fish bites and immediately learns about betrayal. Some early hooks were made from shell and bone. That means humans were using parts of sea creatures to catch other sea creatures. A shell dies, becomes a hook, and then another fish gets pulled from the water because of it. The ocean accidentally armed its own enemy. This is why humans are different from ordinary predators. A shark kills with teeth. A human later finds the shark tooth and gives it a second career. A seal uses speed. A human waits until the seal is on land. A shellfish uses armour. A human turns the armour into a tool. A fish uses water. A human builds a hook and cheats. Nature probably calls this unfair. Humans call it technology. Shark teeth make this point perfectly. A shark tooth already looks illegal. Sharp, triangular, clean, and clearly designed during one of nature's angry moods. In coastal Brazil, shark teeth from the Rio de Meio sideshow wear pattern suggesting some were used as tools or weapon parts, not just decoration. That makes perfect sense. If you are prehistoric and you find a shark tooth, you do not say, what a lovely souvenir. You say, finally, a blade with attitude. The shark used that tooth in its mouth. Humans used it after retirement. Again, same pattern. Ocean creature makes a body part for itself. Human turns it into equipment. Now think about seals and dolphins near the coast. This is where timing becomes more important than strength. In water, a seal is fast, smooth, and completely at home. A human trying to chase a seal in water is just a wet embarrassment. But on land, a seal becomes a different problem. Still dangerous, still strong, still able to bite hard enough to ruin someone's entire personality. But now it is out of position. It has flippers where land animals usually keep dignity. At Gibraltar, evidence shows Neanderthals used marine resources, including mollusks, fish, seals, dolphins, and coastal birds. That does not fit the lazy picture of Neanderthals as simple inland meat-eaters. It shows coastal opportunists who understood that the same animal changes depending on where you meet it. A seal in water is a problem. A seal on land is an opportunity with teeth. That is not brute force. That is context. And context may be one of the most human weapons ever invented. The coast was full of context. The tide mattered. The season mattered. The rocks mattered. The current mattered. The animal's position mattered. A modern beachgoer sees waves. A prehistoric coastal human saw information. Low tide meant shellfish. Certain waters meant fish. Resting places meant seals. Bird colonies meant eggs. A washed-up carcass meant supplies, but only if you got there before rot, scavengers, or the sea took it back. The beach was never just a beach. It was a clock, a kitchen, a workshop, a wardrobe, a map, a test, and sometimes a butcher shop. And yes, sometimes the ocean delivered the biggest bonus of all, a dead whale. Not as the main story, just as the largest example of the same idea. A modern person sees a dead whale and thinks, someone should call authorities. A prehistoric person sees a dead whale and thinks, someone should call everyone. Because a whale was not just meat. It was fat, oil, skin, bone, fuel, tools, and enough smell to make the whole group work faster. More than 20,000 years ago, Ice Age people around the Bay of Biscay were making projectile tools from whale bone, probably from stranded or drifting whales. That fits the whole story perfectly. The ocean does the killing, the tide does the delivery, humans do the converting. A whale dies as a sea giant. It washes up as a disaster. Humans cut it into supply. Then, part of its skeleton becomes a weapon. From animal to material. From material to tool. From tool to survival. That is the thread running through everything. Prehistoric humans did not just eat ancient ocean creatures. They learned a way of thinking from them. Nothing had only one use. Nothing stayed in one category. A shell could be lunch, then knife, then bead. A tooth could be danger, then blade. A fish could be food, but also proof that your group knew the sea. A seal could be meat, but also a lesson in timing. A dead whale could be disaster, then warehouse. The ocean did not just feed early humans. It trained their imagination. It taught them timing. It taught them risk. It taught them tool-making. It taught them identity. It taught them that the world was full of hidden second lives. And that idea is still one of the most human things about us. We look at something and ask, what else can this become? That question turns shells into knives, shark teeth into blades, abalone shells into paint bowls, sea snails into jewellery, fish hooks into traps, and the beach into one of the first great workshops of human history. So no, prehistoric humans did not simply eat ocean creatures. They reassigned them. No creature agreed to it. Humans just started giving jobs. And once that happened, the edge of the sea was no longer the edge of the world. It became the place where human imagination learned.